Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars news update. In today's video we have some very exciting tidbits for the Andor series, and stay tuned because once again John Boyega has spoken about the possibility of returning to Star Wars. Before we get into it my dear friends, as always, if you've not done so, please be sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below, and also be sure to give that bell a good old tickle to be alerted every time that I post a new video. But no more jibber jabber, let's dive straight into it. So we begin with Andor. Some new information has emerged, and we also have some stills for the first two episodes. Tony Gilroy spilled the beans about where Cassian is at in his life when we find him in the first episode. He teases that Cassian is going through a disastrous time where his love life is in shambles and his own mother, Marva, does not even believe in him anymore. So let's begin with his relationship, which is to Pics, who is Adria Arjona's character. Tony said they're meant to be together and yet it's been impossible all these years. When we come into the show, she's done with him, but they do have this business together in stolen material, and that will come to controversy in the first episode. Tony goes on to say that we should think of them as a couple who've been on and off, although this time she's had enough. However, due to circumstances that are against both of their interests, they're forced to work together. Pics, whose full name is Kathleen, is a smuggler and a thief, and Andor is just trying to get by and in a way find his identity. And speaking of this, in the first episode, the showrunner says, quote, "He's a very different person than who we meet in Rogue One. He's the kind of guy that nobody wants to see right now. He owes money to everybody, his mum's on his case all the time, and he's certainly not lived up to his potential at this point." And I don't know about you guys, but when I read this, I couldn't help but think of Son Gi-hun, the main character from Squid Game, and where his arc begins. Tony then goes on to say he's had the worst day of his life when we start the show. We're going to spend 24 episodes exploring his odyssey to become the person who gives his life for the galaxy. So eventually it works out for him, of course before he dies in Rogue One, so Cassian finds purpose fighting the Empire and becoming one of the most important spies for the rebel cause. Intriguing stuff indeed. Now staying on the subject of Andor, I want you guys to think back to this new alien bartender character that we were first introduced to a few weeks ago. She appeared in an exclusive still from Total Film, and I did cover it at the time. Well, it appears as though her design was based on original concept art for Qi'ra from Solo: A Star Wars Story, who was originally going to be an alien of similar design. The design was also used on Sentada Rasad, a character from Canto Bight in The Last Jedi. Now we know all of this thanks to Neil Scanlon, the legendary Oscar-winning creature and makeup effects supervisor. Neil worked on Solo, Rogue One, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker, and in The Art of Solo: A Star Wars Story, he talks about this Star Trek-inspired alien design and the difficulties of bringing Qi'ra to life before they settled with her being a human woman. They explored various alien species, as I said, inspired by Star Trek. This is what he said: "We explored Qi'ra being an alien in the early days. When you look at all of the characters that have been created over the years, for instance in the Star Trek franchise, you learn that you don't want to cover the actor or actress's beauty or emotional range. Every time we touched upon the human form, it fell into some sort of fashion niche or Star Trek-like genres like steampunk. It's a very tough grey area. Either you go all the way or not at all." So as we know, they ended up making Qi'ra a human, but as I say, the alien design was not wasted. It was applied to background characters in The Last Jedi, and we're gonna see one in the Andor show. Elongated head and very fish-like. And so now guys, we once again find ourselves talking about John Boyega, who's gone back and forth over the last year and a half on the idea of returning to Star Wars. We've spoken about it so much, but in a new interview with Sirius XFM via Variety, John says he won't return to Star Wars, a categorical no. He followed up on Twitter to double down on this, but as with a lot of these headlines, they do take his words out of context, and I should say that it's also worth noting that Jordan Mason, a reputable leaker, has come out since and called BS on the situation. Mason claims that Boyega is 100% in talks with Disney for a post-Rise of Skywalker project. So according to him, John is deliberately misleading everyone. I'll let you make up your mind, let's dive into the interview and see what he said, and then we'll talk about it. So John Boyega says he won't return to Star Wars franchise. John Boyega became an international breakout star playing Finn in the Star Wars sequels, but the actor who stars in the upcoming films Breaking and The Woman King doesn't have much of an interest in returning to the Galactic franchise. This is what he said: "At this point, I'm cool off it. I'm good off it. I think Finn is at a good confirmation point where you can just enjoy him and other things, the games, the animation, but I feel like episodes 7 to 9 was good for me." Boyega added, "To be fair with the allies that that I found within Joel Taylor and Jamie Foxx, Teyonah Parris, Viola Davis, all these people I've been working with, versatility is my path. And I think that's the key phrase in this interview, guys. Boyega also discussed his experience facing racism in the Star Wars fandom, an issue that Obi-Wan star Moses Ingram dealt with earlier this year. Disney and Obi-Wan himself, Ewan McGregor, came to Ingram's defense and decried the backlash he was receiving. So John Boyega was asked about it, and these are his thoughts. Moses Ingram being protected makes me feel protected. Do you understand what I'm saying? It makes me feel like, okay, cool, I'm not the elephant in the room, because when I started, it wasn't really a conversation you could bring up. You know how they went through it. It was kind of like, let's just be silent. It wasn't a conversation you could bring up. But now to see how blatant it is, to see Ewan McGregor come and support, for me it fulfills my time where I didn't get the support. Boyega continued, "It doesn't make me feel bitter at all. It makes me feel like sometimes you're that guy. And my dad taught me that. Sometimes you're not the guy to get the blessing, and sometimes you're Moses. You know, you lead the people to the mountain, but you see the destination. You don't get to go in, you get others to go in, and that's where you get your happiness from. And for me to see other people accepted, and then at the same time to see that studios are like, okay, cool, this is not an elephant in the room conversation. We need to support our black client. It's fantastic." So that, my friends, is pretty much the bulk of it. Now, the situation with John Boyega is complicated and confusing. Jordan Mason and other reputable leakers are adamant that he's very much in talks with Kathleen Kennedy, and that he himself is very keen on being part of a good Star Wars story going forward. And the key word is good. A good story, a solid one that does his character justice. But then there are interviews like these where he's more ambiguous on the situation, and you don't know if he's playing coy or is genuinely not interested. It's very hard to tell at this stage. Now, as I said in the past, even though I'm not the biggest sequels fan, I would love more Finn in the future if they do right by his character. It's such a shame he was sidelined and misused in the sequels, when the promise was the story of a defected stormtrooper who is force sensitive and turns into a Jedi. There were hints throughout episodes 7 to 9, but they never really did much with that, and I think in some ways that's why John is saying it's good they're using him in games, animation, the Lego stuff, because ironically those stories do more with his character than the sequel trilogy itself. But who knows, if we do get a post-episode 9 story, I really hope he returns if that's what he wants to do. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, guys. Would you like to see more Finn in the future? Do you think John is going to return to Star Wars, and is he already in talks with Lucasfilm? Let me know your thoughts on this and everything we spoke about, the Andor updates and more. If you enjoyed it, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always. I'm Star Wars Meg. Have a good one.